Welcome back. Today we're going to read Chocolate Fever Chapter 3. Things are really starting to get interesting. Henry, we left off, had chocolate spots, or we don't know if they're chocolate spots yet, but he had brown freckle spots popping up all over his arm. Chapter 3. Mrs. Kimmel-Farber's Problem. There was silence in the room for about 2 seconds. There was a riot. All the girls began to giggle. The boys clawed and chuckled and laughed right out loud. Henry turned red, and Mrs. Kimmel-Farber, who did not appreciate the humor at all, turned white. She rapped her ruler against the desk and shouted for silence. "Henry Green," she said, "what is the meaning?" "Little brown spots all over," said Henry. "I was looking at my arm, and I have these little brown spots all over," interrupted Mrs. Kimmel-Farber. "I heard you quite clearly." "But you see, Mrs. Kimmel-Farber, I didn't have them all my life. I didn't even have them this morning. But now, I know," Mrs. Kimmel-Farber sighed. "Now you have them all over. I'd better have a look at them." Taking Henry's arm, she led him to the window. She said as she peered at his arm. "Looks like freckles to me." "No, ma'am," said Henry. "It just can't be." "Why not?" asked Mrs. Kimmel-Farber. "Because I have clear and delicate skin, like my mother." "Is that so?" Mrs. Kimmel-Farber said. "And who told you that pretty tale?" "My father." "Ah," said Mrs. Kimmel-Farber, "exactly. Now, you are sure you didn't observe this phenomenon before this morning?" "If that means did I see them?" said Henry. "No, I did not." "Well then," she said, "you, Henry Green, stand right where you are. And class," she said, turning to face the room, "you will continue to look at your books until I return." In perfect silence, she added, as she went out into the hall. Henry stood, as told, while the class looked at him. Mrs. Kimmel-Farber walked out a few steps down the hall to Mr. Penglio's room. She looked through the doorway and waited till Mr. Penglios glanced over in her direction. Catching his eye, she waved at him out into the hallway. "Listen, Phil," she began earnestly. "I want you to take a look at this kid." "For heaven's sakes, Dolores," said Mr. Penglios, "I'm right in the middle of Americus Vespucci." Oh, we read about Americus Vespucci this year. "Who has little brown spots all over his arms." "Little brown spots? You got me out here for little brown spots?" "I thought maybe measles." "Oh, no," said Mr. Penglios. "Chickenpox?" Said Mr. Penglios. "I better take a look." The two of them turned into the light near the window, right in the corner where the potted plants were growing. On the window ledge, Mr. Penglios poked and prodded and even took his eyeglasses out of his pocket and put them on. "Freckles," he said finally. "Just freckles." "Are you sure?" Mr. Penglios' rounded nose twitched, and he sniffed the air. "Chocolate?" he said. "Have they brought the chocolate milk upstairs already?" "Forget the milk," she cried. "Look! Now he has them on his face." "Oh, no," said Henry. "Oh, yes," said Mrs. Kimmel-Farber. "Oh, my," said Mr. Penglios. "And they weren't there before?" "No, 2 minutes ago that boy's face was as clear as day. And now—" Henry felt as if his heart were about to drop into his shoes. He swallowed hard and stared at the two teachers who were staring at his face. "Little brown spots all over," said Mrs. Kimmel-Farber. "And I see more of them coming out even as we speak." A tear, just one, welled up in Henry's right eye and began to trickle down his cheek, running slowly in and out of the little brown spots. And that's the end. Poor Henry. It must be a scary feeling to have chocolates or brown spots popping up all over you and not know what they are. Hope you come back to find out what they are.